Good morning, students, and welcome back to the digital classroom of Vikram Juneja. I hope you are keeping safe and taking necessary precautions against the pandemic COVID 19. Today, I'll teach you the next short story in our syllabus, Old Man at the Bridge by Ernest Hemingway. In this video, we will cover the introduction to the poet, introduction to the story, and the parawise explanation of the story. Ernest Miller Hemingway was an American journalist, novelist, short story writer, and sportsman. His economical and understated style, which he termed the iceberg theory, had a strong influence on 20th century fiction, while his adventurous lifestyle and his public image brought him admiration from later generations. Hemingway produced most of his work between the mid 1920s and mid 1950s, and he won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1954. He published 7 novels, 6 short story collections, and 2 non-fiction works. 3 of his novels, 4 short story collections, and 3 non-fiction works were published posthumously. Many of his works are considered classics of American literature. An old man with steel-rimmed spectacles and very dusty clothes sat by the side of the road. There was a pontoon bridge across the river, and carts, trucks, and men, women, and children were crossing it. The mule-drawn carts staggered up the steep bank from the bridge, with soldiers helping push against the spokes of the wheels. The trucks ground up and away, heading out of it all, and the peasants plodded along in the ankle-deep dust. But the old man sat there without moving. He was too tired to go any further. Children, it was the Spanish Civil War. This old man, who was wearing steel-rimmed spectacles and was wearing dusty clothes, he was sitting by the side of a pontoon bridge. Pontoon bridge is a temporary bridge which is constructed during a warlike situation. Across the river, you could see some carts, trucks, men, women, children who were crossing the bridge. The mule-drawn carts were staggering up the bridge, and the soldiers were helping push against the spokes. Like the soldiers were providing all the help to the civilians to move to the safer areas. The trucks were grounded up there on the other side of the bridge, and all these civilians were to be taken to the safer places in these trucks. But the old man sat there without moving. He was too tired to go any further. We go ahead with our next paragraph. It was my business to cross the bridge, explore the bridgehead beyond, and find out to what point the enemy had advanced. I did this and returned over the bridge. There were not so many carts now, and very few people on foot, but the old man was still there. Now, this particular narrator is the war correspondent, and it was his duty to see that all the people evacuate that place and move on to the safer areas. It was also his duty to see as to till what point the enemy had advanced. He went to explore the bridgehead and returned over the bridge. Now he could see that there were not so many carts and there were very few people on foot, but the old man was still sitting there. So he asked him a question. Where do you come from? I asked him. From San Carlos, he said and smiled. That was his native town, and so it gave him pleasure to mention it, and he smiled. I was taking care of animals, he explained. Oh, I said, not quite understanding. So the war correspondent tries to fall into a conversation with the old man to check out as to where he had come from. And he got a reply that the old man had come from San Carlos. Uh, it was his native town. And when he mentioned his native town, it brought a smile on his face. So it reflected that he was attached to his hometown. And after that, this old man started talking about his animals. He says, I was taking care of my animals. The narrator was not able to understand as to what the old man was trying to say. Yes, he said, I stayed, you see, taking care of animals. I was the last one to leave the town of San Carlos. He did not look like a shepherd nor a herdsman, and I looked at his black dusty clothes and his grey dusty face and his steel rimmed spectacles and said, what animals were they? Various animals, he said, and shook his head. I had to leave them. I was watching the bridge and African looking country of the Ebro Delta and wondering how long now it would be before we would see the enemy, and listening all the while for the first noises that would signal that ever mysterious event called contact, and the old man still sat there. Now, I was trying to check out with the old man as to what these animals were he was talking about. The old man replied, yes, they were the animals he was taking care of. They were his family. He said that he was the last one to leave the town of San Carlos. Now, this man did not look like a shepherd, nor did he look like a herdsman. He was wearing steel rimmed spectacles and he looked very old. He was wearing dusty clothes. When I checked it out with him, when the narrator checked it out with him as to what animals they were, the old man replied that there were various animals. So when he was talking, the narrator was talking to the old man. Alongside, he was also taking care of the bridge and the people who were crossing the bridge. And he could see the African looking country of the Ebro Delta. And he was wondering how long now it would be before he would see the enemy. And he wanted to check out the first noises which would actually bring forth the hint to him that the enemies were approaching him. Now he checked it out with the old man as to what animals were they. What animals were they? I asked. There were 3 animals altogether, he explained. There were goats, a cat, and 4 pairs of pigeons. And you had to leave them? I asked. Yes, because of the artillery. The captain told me to go because of the artillery. Now, the narrator entered into further conversation with the old man. He wanted to check as to what animals he was talking about. The old man replied that he was talking about the 2 goats and a cat and 4 pairs of pigeons, which were his family. He said that he had to leave them. He did not want to leave them, but had to leave them because of heavy artillery. He was forced by the captain to evacuate his home. Then the narrator checked with him. And have you no family? I asked, watching the far end of the bridge where a few last carts were hurrying down the slope of the bank. No, he said, only the animals I stated. The cat, of course, will be all right. A cat can look out for itself, but I cannot think what will become of the others. Now, the narrator checked with the old man as if to find out if he had any family. The old man replied that he had no family except for the animals he was taking care of. And the old man also kind of reflected his satisfaction in the fact that the cat will be able to look after itself, but he was worried about the other animals. What politics have you? I asked. I am without politics, he said. I'm 76-year-old. I have come 12 kilometers now, and I think now I can go no further. This is not a good place to stop, I said. If you can make it, there are trucks up the road where it forks for Tortosa. Now, the narrator wanted to check with the old man as to if he was on the side of any of the parties which were fighting in the civil war. The old man replied that he had no politics at all. He said that he was 76-year-old, he had walked 12 kilometers, he was dead tired. Now, I means the narrator told the old man that it was not the good place to stop. To which the old man replied, I'll wait a while and then I'll go. Then the old man even checked with the narrator as to where these trucks would be going. The narrator replied, towards Barcelona. I know no one in that direction, he said, but thank you very much. Thank you again very much. He looked at me very blankly and tiredly, then said, having to share his worry with someone, the cat will be all right, I'm sure. There is no need to be unquiet about the cat, but the others. Now, what do you think about the others? The old man was thankful to the narrator that the narrator showed some concern about him, but the old man wanted to stay there. And then, just to share his worry with somebody, he checked it out with the narrator as to what will happen to the other animals. The old man knew at the back of his mind that the cat will be able to look after itself, but he was very much worried about the other animals. The narrator tried to pacify him. He said, why, they will probably come through it all right, you think so? Why not? I said, watching the far bank where now there were no carts. But what will they do under the artillery when I was told to leave because of the artillery? Did you leave the dove cage unlocked? I asked. Yes. Then they'll fly. Yes, certainly they'll fly. But the others, it's better not to think about the others, he said. Now, the narrator was trying to pacify the old man about these animals. The narrator checked it out with the old man if he had left the dove cage open, to which the old man replied that he had left the dove cage open, and the narrator replied that if that was the case, these doves will fly. Okay, and the old man himself thought that there was no point talking about the other animals, though he was worried at the back of his mind. The narrator then checked it out with the old man if he had rested. If you are rested, I would go, I urged. Thank you, he said, and got to his feet, swayed from side to side, and then sat down backwards in the dust. I was taking care of animals, he said dully, but no longer to me. I was only taking care of animals. The old man tried to get up. The narrator wanted him to leave that place because it was a risky place. The enemies were approaching. The old man even tried to get up, but then he swayed from side to side, and then he sat down backwards in the dust. And he was just reflecting on his thoughts about his animals, and he replied to himself and his thoughts that he was taking care of his animals. He was only taking care of his animals. That reflected about his mindset that he was very worried about his family, which was his animals. There was nothing to do about him. It was Easter Sunday, and the feathers were advancing towards the Ebro. It was a grey, overcast day with a low ceiling, so their planes were not up. That and the fact that the cats know how to look after themselves was the all the good luck that the old man would ever have. It was the Easter Sunday. The Pharisees were approaching this particular place. The old man would have been killed, but the only thing he could actually take a little satisfaction in was that the first thing, it was an overcast, clouded sky, so the planes were not flying high, so there was least chances of bombs being dropped. And the second thing was that the cats could look after themselves. These were the two positives amidst all the negatives and all the pessimistic situation which the old man was going through. And the narrator could not help it further. He had to leave because the old man would not budge from that place. So, children, this was with regard to the explanation, the reading and the explanation of the story. In the next part, I'll be explaining you the summary and the analysis of the story. The Old Man at the Bridge, the summary. Old Man at the Bridge, written by Ernest Hemingway, tells about a narrator who met an old man sitting down around the pontoon bridge during the Spanish Civil War. Although there were carts, trucks, and people crossing the bridge, the old man still sat down and did not move. The narrator asked the old man to walk across the bridge, but the old man refused it because he was too tired to walk any further. The old man said that he was taking care of his animals, although there were no animals around him. The animals were 2 goats, a cat, and 4 pairs of pigeons. Although the narrator had asked him to go away from the place, the old man still sat there and stayed worried. Therefore, the narrator had no other option but to leave the old man. The Old Man at the Bridge analysis. The story Old Man at the Bridge deals with the theme of resignation, depression, and impending death. This is reflected in a conversation between a soldier and an old man who had to leave his hometown during the Spanish Civil War. The old man is gripped by panic and anxiety. He seems to have given up in life. He is quite pessimistic about his life. He would not like to go to the other side of the bridge to be taken to a safer place because he feels that his life has come to an end when he parted with his family, that is, his animals. So, students, this was with regard to the reading and the explanation of the story Old Man at the Bridge. In my next video, I'll conclude this story by teaching you the message and the theme of the story. Till then, goodbye. Stay safe.